this is a stereotype, but it is a tendency. Here, I don't know about America or wherever, but here it's become a little crisis because many males have become so out of touch. Like you say, yes, they're in touch with their femininity and stuff, but they become more feminine often in some ways than the girls. And the girls are forced to become masculine. Now, they handle that very well, because if you grow up as a girl in Norway, you wear pants. I mean, you can do everything. You're premiered, you're stimulated, you're rewarded if you do everything a boy do. So from they're very small, it's okay for them to connect with the masculinity as well as the femininity. Whereas the boys are kind of punished for the masculinity, and their masculine ideals are very primitive and dark, not very positive masculine ideals. So what we have is a crisis where many males, they can't get any girls, to be quite blunt. And girls, even though they appreciate these qualities in men, if they are friends or whatever, they need a man's man. Right. So that means that there's a lot of sexually frustrated men. Yes. And also lots of sexually frustrated women. Because
I was going to say, and lots of hard sexually frustrated women.
Yeah, because the man can't deliver. Yeah. So right now, what I see in this area is that maybe, because we had this sexual revolution in the 60s, we had the feminists, we had the hippies, we had all that. Now, men have to learn how to be men again, and women have to not learn how to be women, but feel that it's okay for them to sometimes be a woman.
Right.
You see what I mean?
I know what you mean. That's all I do every day, it seems.
Excellent. That's why we're talking with you. So that's your cue.
Oh. I would phrase it differently, though.
Okay.
You don't have to learn to be a man, and you don't have to learn to be a woman. You have to relax into what you already are.
Right.
It's a relaxation and the coming back and the rewilding or rehoming, however you want to what's naturally there. The real danger in all of these attempts to reclaim the sacred masculine, the sacred feminine, is that often that is just another layer of pretense put on top of other layers of pretense. So one way of saying that is, when you were born and you are born with a masculine essence, and you're born as a man, right? But some men have feminine essences, and that's a separate issue which we can go into. But if you're a man with a masculine essence, you are born specifically with a built-in. This is kind of evolutionary. This has nothing to do with psychology.
Sure.
You're born with a built-in urge to have a direction, to go places, to push boundaries. And how little boys do that, of course, is by fighting, by climbing on things, by being loud, by being what is deemed by their mothers often violent, and all of those things. And so,
or constructing, it can be mental too.
Exactly.
Inventing.
It could be non-violent, but it's exactly constructing things and doing things that go places, so to speak, emotionally, physically.
Yeah, push the borders.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And little boys always want to be right on the edge of something going wrong, right? And right on the edge of falling, and then they fall. And that's how masculine men grow. And of course, there's exceptions to all of this, but that's in general. So of course, when that is not encouraged, or when it's actively discouraged, you have a real problem, because you are essentially never getting to live out your natural essence. And then, let's say, this happens a lot, men being raised by their mothers at home, of course. And then it's like, no, don't kick, don't fight, be harmonious, don't be loud, behave properly. So they hear all of that. But then also they hear, don't cry, don't be like a girl. There's all kinds of things that happen early on that make it so that particular essence might not be developed that fully. So then, and there's also, then relating to women, things happen. But so then those men put on a layer of behavior that is not natural, but that gets them love. Because you want to be loved by your mother.
Pleasing.
Right? And you could be pleasing, right? It's the oldest thing. And when women don't know that forcing their boys to please them sets them up for very bad relationship, which they don't know, right? They just want their children to be good humans and good citizens and, not be violent and not be rapists. And people don't set out to do wrong things. It just happens that suppressing of that forward urge forces the little boy then to put on a kind of a layer of now he needs to be quiet and sensitive perhaps, and sensitive to energy and behave properly and cooperate. And all of those are good skills, but they're not connected to his natural essence. Then, of course, he wants to find a woman, and most women, I'm making very gross black and white descriptions.
Yeah, we have to. It is for educational purposes.
You have to give me some artistic license, right? But so then most women want a bit of a bad boy, right? Like you said, they want a real man. So then the guy who's just learned that spanking a woman or talking dirty to a woman or being aggressive is wrong, because that's what his mother said, in subtle or not so subtle ways, puts on a fake layer of, I'm the bad boy, I'm like and so on. Then comes the next layer and the next layer. So it's important that when we talk about being a man or becoming a woman or being with the masculine and feminine, we kind of relax all these contractions and layers of mechanisms that we've put on to get love and come back to what is naturally our birthright. Our body knows. Our psyche knows, right? If you are doing the activities that are naturally yours, and they're not the same for every man. Not every man needs to do martial arts and meditation. There's many other. For some men, it's much more in the creative domains or the music domains or nature.
Yeah. Couldn't we say to any man that find your masculinity?
Exactly, and that's the important piece. Relax into who you are already. Right, relax into who you are already. And the same is true for women, because women, are conditioned to have to be certain things from a very, very early age on. And if you're, born in this time and day as a woman, you were essentially now in the Western world taught that you have to be smart and, assertive and find your way. And like you said, women in Scandinavian countries are essentially massaged into being able to do anything they want, which is fantastic. But doing everything you want comes with a huge price, because doing everything isn't that healthy or that good. And so there again, it's the relaxation. It's not going to yet another course so that you learn something else that makes you better because you don't think you're good enough. It's realizing your innate goodness and the innate depth of your always already there masculine or feminine.
The women here are... They have no problem getting laid, but they are very frustrated when it comes to find a partner, because either they choose the bad boy, who they feel sexual attraction to, or they try to find the successful man. Now, when most of the women, in the olden days, women were dependent on males, so it wasn't hard to look up to a male in some instances if he had something, that could put him ahead of the pack, so to speak. But today you have a lot of beautiful, successful, intelligent, independent, wealthy, self-realized women. Yes. And they just can't find a partner. Now for the men, it's the opposite. They can't get laid.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Right?
You understand immediately why this is a problem.
I totally understand. Well, it is a problem simply because, it's a problem for many reasons, but it's a problem because it could be remedied very easily, but people don't know how to. Right?
And I think it's very much a male responsibility. Maybe I'm being unfair here, but I think,
you think it is?
Males have the keys. I think that if we pull ourselves together, if we learn about these things and we learn about ourselves and we just become males again, I think the women will kind of fall in place, so to speak.
You are absolutely right. You're absolutely right. That's not a very politically correct statement,
No,
but you're absolutely right. And this is
it's
where
an observation for what it's worth.
It is an observation, and I want to put a caveat on here because you are right. But there's a bigger principle that makes that right? And the bigger principle is that if I've started taking my teaching out of the realm of masculine and feminine simply because it's so fraught with misunderstanding these days. But if you feel for a moment that between a man and a woman in an intimate relationship, there can only be one of each, right? So in the coupling, right, within yourself, you have both. You have masculine and feminine. And I'll call them something else in a moment, which will make sense. But you have masculine, feminine within yourself. Your masculine is the part of you that provides direction, that follows a schedule, that has a bigger picture, that likes to push the edge. That's true for me as well. I have a very well-developed masculine, and I'm really good with schedules and things like that. That's my masculine.
Yeah, and according to Jung, the older women and men become, the more they drift over to the opposite polarity.
Exactly. Well, yes, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But I think it's innate in both human beings, in both men and women, to have both. And being trained well to do both makes you a highly functioning human being. The people I work with a few Hollywood actors and actresses, like A-list actors and actresses, and a few very well-known bands and musicians. People I work with, their masculine and feminine are equally developed. They have a preference sexually, strongly, very strongly actually, but they are capable of both being very disciplined, very on purpose, on the edge, and wildly feeling chaotic and creative. And so I think high performance individuals have it both. But for the sexual occasion, one person is the taker or ravisher, and one person is the surrendered or ravishee.
Yeah, but does it have to be the same person all the time at all areas?
No, not at all. That's exactly. It can change.
Exactly.
That's why I'm saying certain concepts have to be refined, because no, not at all. It could go both ways each way, but each time and from moment to moment, from sexual occasion to sexual occasion, could completely shift back and forth.
But not at the same time, at the same area. Then we collide.
Not at the same time, at the same area. And that's right. So if we just talk about the sexual thing, because you're saying men can't get laid, women can't get a good man, which is true. So the important piece to feel here, and you were saying that men are responsible for that, and they are. And the reason they are is not because guys should be doing all the work and women are so perfect, but because the principle of masculine and feminine could also be explained, and this is how I explain it these days, as the organizing principle and the pleasure principle. And so when you feel that, then you can feel that in a sexual or, quasi-sexual, meaning an intimate relationship interaction, both of these principles have to be present.
Yeah.
And so the organizing principle is the principle that aligns the pleasure principle. The pleasure principle by itself, right, the feminine by itself, is just all over the place, sloppy, eating cake and, making crumbs in bed and being chaotic and not knowing where it's going and not getting up on time and not paying the bills. And, but it's very pleasurable and light-filled and enjoyable and full, and there's children and animals and whatever. That's the pleasure.
And very, very in the now.
Very in the now.
Present.
Exactly. So the organizing principle then essentially aligns, or you could say pins, the pleasure principle into a direction, or into kind of a, into a flow that goes somewhere. So it's not just a wild puddle. It gets corralled into a river that flows somewhere. Within the banks of the organizing principle, the river, the pleasure principle, can be completely wild, but the edges are held. So when in a relationship the man is the more masculine or holding the organizing principle, the woman, I have a wild dog pack suddenly.
I hear the pack is
I
awakening.
have 7 dogs, so
Wow.
so the pleasure principle gets aligned by the organizing principle. Could go both ways. Could be the man, could be the woman. But for most heterosexual couples, often the man likes to be the one doing the organizing principle for not all the time, but most of the time. And the woman likes to be in the pleasure principle and be relaxed and open and flowing.
Except that in the center domain, which is a feminine thing, to find the center,
yes,
the woman is the organizer. And outside of that, in the external world,
exactly,
traditionally, it's the man.
Right. But sexually speaking, whoever does the penetrating is the organizing principle, right? And if you're heterosexual and you like the interaction to be that you're with a real man as a woman, so to speak, who doesn't tolerate a whole lot of the complication in that particular moment, but pins, right? Women always have these fantasies. Now, 50 Shades of Grey was the best-selling book ever. And what is it? It's a cheap, and when I'm saying cheap, an incomplete offering of the pin, right? Of the pinning down of the organizing principle.